I'm Karen, and at 48, I was drowning in the monotony of life. Until that night at the basketball game offered a chance to break free. It started as a simple plan. My best friend, Lori, and I decided to treat ourselves and our close friends, Tom, Sarah, and Mike, to VIP box seats at the downtown arena. We were all in our late 40s, worn down by endless workdays, piling bills, and coffee chats that felt like shadows of our youth. But watching the Thunderhawks face off against the Firebirds, that felt like a spark we desperately needed. The VIP box was a glass-walled haven high above the court, plush leather seats, a private bar stocked with chilled wine, and windows offering a sweeping view of the arena. The crowd's roar below, the sharp squeak of sneakers, the buzz of the tip-off, it all vibrated through me as we settled in. I wore my faded Thunderhawks jersey, a lucky charm from years past, while Lori shimmered in a sequin top that caught the arena lights. Tom and Mike arrived in pressed shirts, joking about their college basketball days, and Sarah, in a flowy dress, laughed louder than I'd heard in months. We poured wine, clinked glasses, and sank into the moment as the game began. The Thunderhawks dominated early, their orange and blue jerseys blurring across the court, and I felt a thrill I hadn't known in years, a fleeting taste of freedom. But as the first quarter ticked on, I noticed something in our group. Lori's eyes kept darting around the box, her smile growing mischievous. Tom leaned back, sipping wine with a knowing grin, and Sarah whispered to Mike, their laughter bubbling over the crowd's cheers. We were all restless, buzzing with an energy I couldn't name. The game was electric. The Thunderhawks sank a three-pointer, the stands erupted. But up here in our private bubble, I sensed something brewing. Lori caught my eye, her voice low and teasing over the noise. You know, Karen, we've got this whole box to ourselves. No one's up here but us. I chuckled, brushing it off. Lori's ideas were always a little wild, but her words lingered, stirring a spark deep inside me. I glanced at the glass walls, the arena lights reflecting off them like a golden curtain. The privacy was intoxicating, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the edge of something big, something daring. The wine warmed my chest, the game roared below, and I caught Tom's wink, Sarah's playful nudge at Mike. We were all craving more than just a night out. But what? My mind raced as the buzzer sounded for the first quarter's end, the crowd's cheers fading into a rhythmic chant. Lori leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. Imagine if we really let loose up here. Just for tonight. Froze, my heart skipping. What did she mean? Before I could ask, the lights flickered, and a shadow moved outside the glass. Someone in the hallway, pausing, staring up. My breath caught. Were we being watched already? I'm Karen, and if you're still with me after that eerie moment in the VIP box, you know something big was brewing. That shadow outside the glass, someone pausing, staring up, sent a shiver down my spine, but the game's roar below drowned out my doubts. Lori's whisper still echoed in my head. Imagine if we really let loose up here. Just for tonight. I couldn't shake it. What did she mean? My heart raced as I stepped back from the window, the wine glass trembling in my hand. The first quarter ended, and the Thunderhawks led by 12. The crowd's cheers filled the arena, but up here in our glass-walled bubble, a different energy crackled. Lori's eyes sparkled with mischief as she refilled our glasses, her sequined top catching the golden glow of the string lights we'd switched on. Tom stretched out on a leather seat, grinning at me over his wine. Come on, Karen, he said, his voice low and teasing. You've been talking about breaking out of the rut for months. What's stopping us? Sarah giggled, leaning against Mike, who nodded. His cheeks flushed from the wine. Yeah, we're all thinking it, Mike added, his voice quieter but insistent. I felt the weight of their gazes, the unspoken invitation hanging in the air. I glanced at the glass again, half expecting to see that shadow return, but the hallway outside was empty, only the faint flicker of arena lights and the distant hum of the crowd. My nerves battled my curiosity. At 48, I'd spent years playing it safe, but tonight felt different. The wine buzzed in my veins, the game's energy pulsed through me, and I saw it in their faces. Tom's daring grin, Lori's wicked smile, Sarah's playful nudge at Mike. We were all restless, hungry for something more than just watching basketball. "Okay," I said, my voice shaking but determined. "But it stays between us. No phones, no photos, just us having fun." Lori clapped her hands, her laugh echoing off the walls. "Perfect," she said, dimming the lights further and cranking up the soft jazz on the box's speaker. We moved closer, the leather seats creaking under us. Tom pulled Lori into a playful spin, their laughter mixing with the music, while Sarah and Mike leaned in, whispering and giggling like teenagers. I stood back, watching, my heart pounding, a mix of excitement and dread. It wasn't just the wine. It was the thrill of stepping into uncharted territory, of breaking free from the life I'd built. But then I noticed something. The glass walls weren't just a barrier. They were transparent, framing us like actors on a stage. The arena lights caught the movement, and I saw a flicker of movement below, a few heads in the stands turning, eyes squinting upward. "Careful," I whispered, my voice tight. "We're still visible." Lori waved it off, twirling with Tom. "Relax, Karen. No one's paying attention to us. They're watching the game." But I wasn't so sure. The wine dulled my fear, but my gut twisted. What if someone did notice? What if that shadow wasn't just a trick of the light? I pushed the thought aside, letting the music and laughter pull me in. Sarah handed me a glass, her eyes bright. "Come on, live a little," she said, and I took it, feeling the rush again. We danced, laughed, and for a moment it felt perfect. Us lost in the moment, the game a distant heartbeat below. But as the second quarter began, the buzzer jolted me back. I glanced at the glass again, and my breath caught. A figure in a navy uniform stood at the edge of the hallway, watching, not moving, just observing. Security guard. My heart sank. "Lori," I hissed, grabbing her arm. "Look." She froze, her smile fading. The guard's flashlight flicked on, its beam slicing through the dark hallway, inching closer to our box. "Oh no," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What if he's coming for us?" "I'm Karen, and if you've made it this far, you know that night in the VIP box was spiraling out of control." That security guard's flashlight beam inching closer sent my heart racing like the Thunderhawk's final buzzer. Lori's whisper, "What if he's coming for us?" hung in the air, sharp as the arena's cheers below. We froze, the soft jazz still playing, our laughter dying mid-note. The glass walls, once our private haven, now felt like a prison. The guard, a tall man in a navy uniform, his badge glinting under the hallway lights, pushed open the door without knocking. His radio crackled with static as he stepped inside, notepad in hand, eyes narrowing. "What's going on here?" he barked, his voice cutting through the music. I dropped my wine glass, the shatter echoing off the leather seats. Lori clutched my arm, Tom straightened up, and Sarah and Mike stumbled apart, their faces pale. We weren't doing anything explicit, just dancing too close, laughing too loud, caught in a moment of reckless joy. But the guard's stern gaze made it feel like a crime. Just watching the game, sir," I stammered, forcing a smile, my voice shaky. "A private party, you know, friends, wine, the Thunderhawks." He didn't buy it. His flashlight swept the room, catching the dim lights, the string lights we'd draped, the half-empty bottles on the bar. "Private, huh?" he said, his tone icy. "You think glass walls mean no one sees? I've had complaints, rowdy behavior, distracting the crowd." My stomach twisted. Complaints? From who? The stands below. I glanced out, and my heart sank. A few fans were pointing up, phones raised, their screens flashing like tiny stars. Tom stepped forward, hands up. "Look, we're not causing trouble. Just having fun, that's all." The guard's eyes hardened. "Fun doesn't mean breaking arena rules. No parties up here without approval, especially not." He paused, his gaze darting between us, his lips tightening. He didn't finish, but I knew what he meant. The way we'd been dancing, the closeness. It looked suspicious, even if we hadn't crossed any lines. "You're coming with me," he said, gesturing to the door. "All of you." Lori gasped, her sequined top catching the light as she shook her head. "Please, we didn't mean any harm," she pleaded, but the guard wasn't budging. "Downstairs now," he snapped, his radio crackling again. "Or I call the police." My knees wobbled. Police. At 48, I'd never been in trouble, and now this. Caught in a VIP box, my friends' faces frozen in panic. Sarah's eyes welled up, Mike muttered under his breath, and Tom clenched his fists, but we had no choice. We grabbed our coats, the wine bottles forgotten, and followed the guard out, the jazz fading behind us. As we stepped into the hallway, the arena's roar hit us like a wave. The guard marched us toward the stairs, his flashlight bobbing ahead. I glanced back at the box, our laughter, our spark, now a distant memory. But then I saw it. A crowd below, craning their necks, murmurs rippling through the stands. Phones were still up, capturing us. Me, Lori, Tom, Sarah, Mike, being escorted out like criminals. My face burned. "Oh no," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the crowd. "They're watching us." The guard stopped at the top of the stairs, turning back with a cold smirk. "You wanted attention. You've got it now," he said, his voice low. "I'll be filing a report, trespass disturbance. You're banned from this arena." Banned. My chest tightened. This wasn't just a scolding. It was a public humiliation, etched in every phone screen below. Lori squeezed my hand, but I felt the weight of her blame, and mine. What had I done? "I'm Karen, and if you've stayed with me this far, you know that night at the basketball arena broke me in ways I never imagined." After the security guard marched us out, the humiliation hit like a Thunderhawk's slam dunk gone wrong. The crowd's murmurs, the flashing phone screens, the cold stares as we were escorted through the stands. It was a nightmare I couldn't wake from. At 48, I'd never felt so exposed, so small, and now, weeks later, I'm still picking up the pieces. That night, after the guard banned us from the arena, "Forever," he said, we stumbled into the parking lot, silent except for Lori's quiet sobs. Tom kicked a tire, muttering curses, while Sarah and Mike avoided my eyes, their faces tight with anger. "This was your idea, Karen," Tom snapped, his voice sharp. "You pushed us into this." I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the weight of his words crushed me. I had pushed Lori's whisper, my own restless craving for excitement, the wine that blurred my judgment. It was all on me. The fallout was worse than I'd feared. By morning, photos and videos of our scene in the VIP box had spread online, blurry but unmistakable, with captions like, "Wild VIP party busted," and "Arena scandal." Friends from work texted, their messages dripping with judgment or curiosity. Strangers at the grocery store whispered, pointing at me like I was a celebrity for all the wrong reasons. I couldn't escape it. Lori tried to call, but I let it go to voicemail. Her voice, shaky with apologies, only reminded me of my shame. Tom, Sarah, and Mike. They stopped answering altogether. Our friendship, once so tight, shattered like the wine glass I'd dropped. I couldn't stay in town. Every corner held a memory. Of the arena, of those nights laughing with Lori, of the life I'd built. But now, every glance felt like an accusation. I packed up, sold my house, and moved to a small coastal town 3 hours away, where no one knew my name or my story. The quiet was a relief, but it couldn't silence the regret gnawing at me. At 48, I'd wanted to feel young again, to chase that spark, but instead I'd lost everything. My friends, my reputation, my home. I sat on the beach, staring at the waves, and whispered to myself, this was the worst night of my life. But then I found it. A crumpled note in my coat pocket from that night, slipped in by someone during the chaos. It read, "You'll never outrun this." No signature, but I knew it had to be the guard, his final jab. My hands shook as I tore it up, the pieces scattering in the wind, but the words stayed with me. Was he right? Would I always carry this shame, no matter where I went? I didn't know, but I knew one thing. I'd never let myself forget. That swing party, that reckless moment, it cost me more than I could ever repay. Now I live quietly, working at a small bookstore, avoiding crowds, avoiding risks. I miss Laurie's laugh, Tom's jokes, Sarah's warmth, Mike's quiet support. But I can't face them. Not yet. Maybe never. I regret every second of that night. The decision to liven things up. The wine-fueled bravado, the moment I ignored my gut. It wasn't just a party gone wrong. It was a life derailed. And as I watch the sunset over the ocean, I swear I'll never let myself, or anyone else, fall into that kind of chaos again.